3 cars, 100,000 miles. Same roads, same conditions, same driver. Only one of them made it through without a single unplanned repair bill. One needed a transmission service at 62,000 miles that the dealer said was routine and the owner's manual never mentioned. One developed an oil consumption problem at 78,000 miles that 3 different shops gave 3 different explanations for. Today, every mile of data gets exposed. Stick around. The car that survived is not the one most people would predict. Let us get into it. Number 10. Which one still? What still looked new? At 10,000 miles, all 3 looked nearly perfect. That tells you almost nothing. The real test began when grocery carts, highway sand, muddy shoes, sunscreen, coffee, and careless passengers started leaving evidence. The Mazda made the strongest first impression. Its cabin looked expensive from day one, with a clean dashboard, solid controls, and materials that felt closer to an entry-level luxury vehicle than a mainstream crossover. The Honda looked smart and practical. Storage was everywhere, the controls were easy to understand, and the cabin felt designed by people who had actually carried children, backpacks, and takeout food. The Toyota looked tougher than both. It did not feel as rich as the Mazda or as clever as the Honda, but its surfaces seemed ready for abuse. At 50,000 miles, the first surprise appeared. The Mazda still photographed beautifully, but the driver's seat showed more creasing than expected. Glossy trim collected fine scratches, and the dark interior revealed every careless wipe. The Honda's cabin had more visible wear around the steering wheel, center console, and frequently used buttons. Nothing had failed, but it looked like a vehicle that had lived a busy life. The Toyota's harder plastics had not impressed anyone in the showroom. At 50,000 miles, they suddenly made sense. They resisted scratches, wiped clean easily, and seemed almost proud of being ordinary. Then came the exterior. Mazda's paint looked deep and expensive when clean, yet chips on the hood were easier to notice. The Honda collected small marks around the cargo opening where bags and strollers had been dragged across the trim. The Toyota carried its scars without looking dramatically older. By 100,000 miles, the Mazda still won the beauty contest from 20 feet away. The Honda still looked the most family-friendly, but the Toyota showed the least emotional damage. Its cabin had aged without becoming sad. Round 10 went to Toyota, but only by a narrow margin. Looks can hide mechanical pain. Number 9 opens the service folders and counts what each vehicle demanded before reaching 6 figures. Number 9, which one costs less to maintain? Routine maintenance is not failure. That distinction matters because owners often call a car unreliable after paying for tires, brakes, fluids, filters, and batteries every vehicle eventually needs. For this test, scheduled maintenance was separated from unexpected repairs. The comparison was also kept consistent. Each vehicle followed its required service schedule, used the correct fluids and replacement parts, and faced the same basic scoring rules. Invoices, downtime, warning lights, noises, fuel economy changes, tire wear, and how each vehicle behaved on cold starts, long highway runs, rough city streets, and ordinary family trips were recorded. One cheap oil change could not win a round, and one worn set of brakes could not lose it. The pattern across 100,000 miles mattered more than any single bill. The same routes were repeated throughout the test, so every comparison was made under consistent conditions. The score came from what changed, what failed, what cost money, and what still felt worth driving every single day without hesitation or second thoughts. The Toyota followed a predictable rhythm. Oil changes, tire rotations, filters, brakes, and fluids arrived without drama. Nothing felt unusually cheap, but nothing created panic either. The Honda was similar, although its continuously variable transmission made fluid service feel more important. Ignoring that maintenance to save a few dollars would have been a foolish experiment, so the fluid was changed on time. The Mazda asked for ordinary oil and filter service, brakes, tires, and inspections. Its conventional 6-speed automatic avoided some of the anxiety people attach to long-term CVT ownership, though that did not make it maintenance-free. At 30,000 miles, the totals were close enough to be boring. At 60,000, the Honda became slightly more expensive because of fluid service and faster tire wear under its daily routine. The Mazda needed brakes sooner than the Toyota in this particular comparison, partly because it encouraged harder driving. That is the strange thing about enjoyable cars. Sometimes the vehicle does not create the expense, your right foot does. The Toyota kept moving through the mileage with almost insulting calm. Its owner could predict the next service without studying forums at midnight. The Honda remained affordable, but every warning about CVT fluid, turbocharged engines, and short-trip driving made the maintenance plan feel less optional. The Mazda sat between them. It did not punish the budget, but it rewarded careful oil changes and regular inspection. By 100,000 miles, the routine maintenance difference was smaller than the internet would make you believe. None of these vehicles became expensive simply because the odometer reached 6 figures. The real separation came from the repairs that were not on the schedule. We are not revealing those yet. Round 9 went to Toyota for the simplest, calmest service history, but the cheapest vehicle to maintain was not automatically the one you would have loved to drive home. Number 8 puts all 3 on the same road and asks which one still had a personality after years of use. Number 8. Which one was still fun to drive? The Toyota started this round with a disadvantage. It had spent decades teaching buyers that excitement was less important than reaching work every morning. The RAV4 felt confident, easy, and predictable. Its controls were light, visibility was good, and nothing demanded attention. On a long highway drive, that calm character became valuable. Then the road began to curve. The Mazda immediately felt different. Its steering carried more weight. The body settled sooner after a bend. The brake pedal felt easier to judge, and the driver's seat placed you in the vehicle rather than above it. At 10,000 miles, that difference was obvious. At 100,000, it became more impressive. The CX-5 still felt connected, balanced, confident, and genuinely enjoyable to drive. It had gained a few small noises, and the suspension no longer felt factory fresh, but the basic character remained intact. Then the Honda surprises you in a different way. The CR-V was not sporty, yet it felt lighter and more responsive than the Toyota in normal traffic. Its visibility, quick reactions, and excellent packaging made it easy to place on the road. It was the vehicle that demanded the least thought. The Mazda was the vehicle that rewarded the most attention. That difference matters. A family crossover does not need to behave like a sports car. It does need to avoid feeling completely worn out after years of commuting. At 70,000 miles, the Toyota began to feel looser over broken pavement than it had when new. Nothing felt unsafe, but the ride had lost some polish. The Honda remained comfortable, though road noise and a few interior rattles made the mileage easier to hear. The Mazda still encouraged the long route home. Round 8 went to Mazda, and it was not close. 3 rounds in, Toyota led the sensible categories while Mazda owned the emotional one. Subscribe right now, because number 7 is where the engines begin revealing whether reputation can survive heat, traffic, and 100,000 cold starts. Number 7. Which engine reached 100K healthiest? An engine does not need to explode to lose this round. Oil consumption, cold start noise, rough idle, hesitation, warning lights, and declining fuel economy can make a running engine feel tired long before it stops. The Mazda's naturally aspirated engine began with the simplest story. No turbocharger, no dramatic low-end surge, and no promise of effortless speed. It simply worked. Oil changes were kept consistent, the cooling system was watched, and the engine was allowed to warm under light driving rather than long idling. At 100,000 miles, it sounded slightly busier than it had when new, but it still pulled cleanly and used no alarming amount of oil. The Toyota followed a similar path. Its engine could sound coarse under hard acceleration, especially when the transmission asked for power, but the mechanical health remained strong. There were no heroic moments because there was no crisis to defeat. That is often Toyota's greatest talent. The Honda created the most discussion. Its turbocharged engine delivered useful torque and made daily driving easy, but short trips, cold weather, oil condition, and maintenance habits mattered. The engine never failed in this comparison, yet it demanded more attention to what the dipstick and maintenance records were saying. At 50,000 miles, an owner who ignored fuel dilution concerns, stretched oil changes, or treated every warning as internet panic could have created a very different outcome. The Honda's engine still felt smooth at 100,000 miles. It had not become weak or unreliable, but confidence is part of survival. The Mazda and Toyota let the driver forget about the engine for longer stretches. The Honda made the driver think about it more often. Then we measured the unglamorous signs. Cold starts stayed clean on the Toyota and Mazda. Fuel economy had declined slightly across all three, partly from tires, weather, and age. None showed a dramatic loss of compression or power in normal driving. The Toyota won by feeling the least stressed. The Mazda finished close behind because its engine still felt eager and mechanically honest. Honda took third, not because it failed, but because it required the most disciplined owner. Round 7 went to Toyota, but a healthy engine cannot rescue a cabin that makes every mile feel older. Number 6 involved closing the doors, turning off the radio, and listening to which vehicle aged the loudest. Number 6. Which one felt cheapest? Inside? The first rattle is easy to forgive. The 7th changes how you see the entire car. At 20,000 miles, the Honda's cabin was still the most useful. The storage areas swallowed phones, bottles, cables, snacks, and everything families refused to leave at home. At 60,000 miles, that usefulness remained, but road noise had become more noticeable. A faint buzz appeared near the dashboard on rough pavement. The cargo area trim carried scratches from real life. The Toyota never pretended to be luxurious. Its cabin used durable materials, large controls, and shapes that prioritized function. That honesty helped it age. Some surfaces looked inexpensive when new, but they did not suddenly become disappointing at 100,000 miles. The vehicle had shown you exactly what it was from the beginning. The Mazda faced the hardest test because it had created the highest expectations. Its cabin looked richer, so every squeak or worn surface felt more personal. Fortunately, most of the interior held together well. The dashboard remained attractive, the controls still felt deliberate, and the driving position stayed excellent. The weak points were smaller. Glossy trim showed scratches. Seat bolsters revealed use. A minor noise near the center display appeared over sharp bumps. Yet when all three vehicles reached 100,000 miles, the Mazda still felt like the expensive one. The Honda felt the busiest. The Toyota felt the toughest. This round was not about which cabin had zero wear. None did. It was about which interior made the mileage easiest to forget. Mazda won. Toyota came second because durability protected its simple materials. Honda finished third because noise and visible family wear made the odometer feel more believable. The scoreboard was tightening. Toyota had durability. Mazda had character. Honda had not won a round yet, but number 5 was built for the thing Honda owners defend most fiercely: avoiding unexpected repairs. Number 5. Which one needed the fewest surprise repairs? This is where the test stopped being comfortable. Scheduled maintenance can be planned. A surprise repair arrives on a Tuesday morning when the budget already belongs to something else. The Mazda's first unplanned expense was modest, a sensor-related warning that required diagnosis and replacement rather than a major mechanical repair. Later, a suspension component developed play and created a clunk over rough roads. Neither problem ended the journey. Both cost time, money, and confidence. The Toyota went longer without demanding attention. Then an electrical issue created intermittent warnings that disappeared after restarting. The battery and connections became the first suspects, and careful testing solved the problem without replacing half the vehicle. The Honda produced the most frustrating repair because it began as a small symptom. The air conditioning system lost performance during hot weather. The vehicle still drove perfectly, but family comfort disappeared, and diagnosis took longer than expected. That matters because reliability is not only whether the engine starts. A vehicle can reach work every morning and still exhaust its owner through repeated smaller faults. By 80,000 miles, the repair totals remained close. Then the Honda developed another warning tied to an emissions-related component. It was repaired before causing drivability problems, but the second unplanned visit changed the standings. The Mazda had 2 repairs. The Honda had 2, with more inconvenience. The Toyota had 1 minor electrical episode and no major mechanical interruption. Round 5 went to Toyota. Before Toyota fans celebrate, remember the rule. One example does not prove every vehicle from a brand will repeat the result. Maintenance history, model year, climate, driving style, and luck still matter. But this test was now leaning in one direction. If your prediction has changed, hit the like button. Number 4 stops counting repair visits and asks a harder question. Which vehicle still felt young after every repaired problem was forgotten? Number 4, which one aged the best? Aging is not one failure, it is the combination of everything becoming slightly worse at the same time. The driver's seat compresses, the steering loses precision, the suspension stops settling quickly, wind noise grows, doors sound lighter, controls feel polished by thousands of touches. At 100,000 miles, the Honda still worked beautifully as a tool. Its cargo space remained excellent. The rear seat still handled adults and child seats with ease. The controls were simple and fuel economy remained strong, but the vehicle felt used. Road noise, interior marks, and small vibrations made the mileage present on every drive. The Mazda aged in the opposite way. Its design still looked current. The cabin still felt special. The steering and seating position continued, giving the driver a reason to care, but it also asked for more cosmetic forgiveness. Paint chips, trim scratches, and seat wear stood out because the car had started from a higher visual standard. The Toyota looked less exciting than both and somehow benefited from it. Its interior had not fallen from luxury because it had never claimed luxury. Its ride had softened, a few surfaces had dulled, and the exterior carried normal scars. Yet the whole vehicle felt consistent. Nothing seemed dramatically more tired than everything around it. That is an underrated form of durability. Some cars age like a favorite leather jacket. Others age like a phone with a cracked screen. Still functional, but constantly reminding you what happened. The Mazda aged with personality. The Honda aged with evidence. The Toyota aged with indifference. Round 4 went to Toyota because it had lost the least of its original identity. The winner now looked obvious. That was the trap. Number 3 removes repair bills and asks which key you should actually choose for another daily drive tomorrow morning. Number 3, which one would you likely buy again? Reliability can win a spreadsheet and still lose the driveway. After 100,000 miles, you know every strength and every irritation. The Honda was the easiest recommendation for a busy family. It used space brilliantly, delivered strong fuel economy, and made daily life simple. Its weaknesses were not disastrous, they were cumulative. A little more noise, a little more worry around long-term turbo and CVT maintenance, a few repairs that arrived at inconvenient moments. Would you buy it again? Maybe yes, for a family that values space above personality. The Mazda created the strongest emotional answer. It was the one you will look back at after parking. It was the one you'd choose for an empty early morning road. Its cabin still made ordinary errands feel less ordinary. Would you probably want to buy it again? Yes, especially if the exact model year had a clean inspection and complete service records. Then came the Toyota. It had won more rounds, cost less emotional energy, and created fewer surprises. But wanting to buy a vehicle again is not the same as respecting it. The Toyota sometimes felt like the correct answer written by someone else. It did not offend. It did not excite. It simply removed reasons to say no. That became strangely persuasive after 100,000 miles. On purchase day, your heart probably chooses the Mazda. At 50,000 miles, the Honda's practicality would have challenged that decision. At 100,000, the Toyota's calm history became difficult to ignore. Round 3 ended in a split decision. Mazda won the emotional repurchase. Toyota won the rational one. Honda remained the specialist choice for families who measure a car by what fits inside it. Number 2 now asks the question that matters more than buying again. Which vehicle should be trusted to reach 200,000 miles without turning every new sound into fear? Number 2, which one should be trusted for another 100K? The second 100,000 miles is a different country. Rubber hardens, seals age, suspension parts wear, cooling systems matter more. Small maintenance gaps from years earlier begin collecting interest. The Honda could make the journey, but you should maybe still want proof of disciplined maintenance. Oil change history would need to be clear. Transmission fluid service could not be a mystery. Cooling system health, warning lights, and evidence of short trip abuse would matter. A cared-for CR-V could continue for years. A neglected one could turn its efficient design into an expensive lesson. The Mazda inspired confidence in its basic mechanical character. The naturally aspirated engine and conventional automatic felt straightforward. The vehicle still drove with purpose, and its cabin had not become depressing. But you'd still inspect known model year concerns carefully, watch the cooling system, and refuse any example with incomplete records. The Toyota required the shortest speech. Check the fluids, inspect the suspension, test the battery and charging system, look for leaks, accident repairs, and neglected tires. Then keep driving. That simplicity was the point. Trust does not mean believing a badge makes a vehicle immortal. It means understanding the likely problems and feeling that the car gives you time to respond before they become disasters. Toyota created the fewest moments of doubt in this test. Mazda created more attachment. Honda created more usefulness. If the decision were based only on surviving another 100,000 miles, Toyota would receive the key. But the question does not ask which one is the most trusted, it asks which one survived. Those are not exactly the same question. Number 1 reveals the final standard, combines every round, and names the only vehicle that reached 100,000 miles without losing the reason anyone bought it in the first place. Number 1. Which one actually survived 100,000 miles best? Here is the result nobody gets from a reliability ranking. Survival is not simply starting on the final morning. All 3 vehicles did that. Survival means reaching 100,000 miles without becoming a shadow of the vehicle that left the showroom. The Honda survived mechanically. Its engine ran, its transmission worked, its space remained brilliant, and its fuel economy still made sense, but it carried the mileage loudly. Cabin noise, visible wear, and 2 inconvenient repairs made ownership feel older than the odometer alone suggested. The Mazda survived emotionally. It still looked special. It still drove with precision. Its cabin remained the place it ought to be, and its engine felt healthy. But 2 unexpected repairs, more visible cosmetic aging, and the need to choose the right year carefully prevented it from taking the final crown. Then there was the Toyota. It had not won the beauty contest. It had not won the driving test. It had not offered the smartest cabin. It simply refused to become a problem. At 100,000 miles, the RAV4 still felt like the same honest vehicle it had been at 10,000. The controls worked. The engine felt steady. The transmission behaved normally. The cabin looked used without looking defeated. The repair history contained no moment that changed the family budget or trust in the car. That consistency decided the test. Toyota was the only one that survived as a complete ownership experience. Not because nothing wore out, not because every Toyota is automatically reliable, not because Honda and Mazda failed. Toyota won because the vehicle demanded the least compromise between what it promised new and what it delivered after 100,000 miles. That difference mattered every single day. Honda promised practicality and kept most of it, but the aging experience became noisier and more complicated. Mazda promised driving enjoyment and kept it, but ownership required slightly more attention and forgiveness. Toyota promised dependable transportation. 100,000 miles later, that promise had barely changed, despite thousands of ordinary miles and everyday family use. That answer may sound predictable. The route to it was not. Mazda won the rounds enthusiasts remember. Honda won the daily tasks families notice. Toyota won the years owners forget because nothing dramatic happened. That may be the greatest compliment a high-mileage car can receive. The Survivor was not the vehicle that created the best first impression, it was the vehicle that made 100,000 miles feel least important. That is the verdict. If you wanted the most enjoyable drive tomorrow, you should choose the Mazda. If you needed maximum family space and efficiency, you should take the Honda. If you had to spend your own money and trust one for another 100,000 miles, then you should take the Toyota. Real survival is not arriving with the fewest scratches. It is arriving with the owner still confident enough to keep going. Before you choose any of them, remember that one badge cannot erase a bad service history. A neglected Toyota can be worse than a maintained Mazda. A clean Honda can outlast an abused RAV4. Inspect the exact vehicle, verify the records, and never buy reputation instead of condition. The winner of this test was Toyota. The winner of your driveway may be different. One warning still matters. This result belongs to these three vehicles, not every badge wearing the same name. A neglected Toyota can lose to a maintained Mazda, and a carefully serviced Honda can outlast both. Before buying any high-mileage crossover, inspect it cold, scan for stored codes, test every system, study the service pattern, and drive long enough for the engine, transmission, brakes, and cooling system to reach normal temperature. Reputation starts the conversation. The exact vehicle's history and condition must finish it. Most buyers compare cars when they are new. The truth appears after the warranty fades, the seats crease, and the first unexpected warning arrives. The next video exposes the used Japanese cars that look reliable until one hidden weakness appears after 70,000 miles. It is already on your screen. Click it now before somebody else's perfect reliability story becomes your repair bill.